Okay, ready to dive deep. Today, it's love. Intensely personal, universally fascinating, right? Our guide, Osho, the Indian mystic, philosopher. Thought-provoking, sometimes controversial.
Right.
We're unpacking his unique perspective on love, using excerpts from his writings that you provided us.
Yeah, Osho, he really flips the script,
Mm.
on how we usually think about love. He digs deep beyond the surface, pushes us to explore like the spiritual side of this powerful emotion.
So for folks who might be new to Osho, he was incredibly influential back in the 20th century. Huge following, unconventional teachings, spirituality, personal growth, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and love right at the heart of it all. His whole philosophy, really, he saw it as this incredible force for transformation, but also like a cautionary tale about how easily it can get twisted, misused, you know what I mean?
Okay, let's get into it. One thing that really struck me about Osho's teachings, this idea, love starts from within. He's adamant that self-love, it's the foundation for all love. And he's really clear, not talking about narcissism.
Right. Not ego, vanity, no. What Osho's getting at is deep, genuine acceptance of yourself, even the messy bits, He believed that until you truly know. And love yourself, flaws and all. You can't fully give that to someone else.
This makes me think about relationships. I've seen where one person, they constantly need validation from the other. Is that what Osho means by lack of self-love?
Absolutely. Classic example. It's like they're trying to fill a void inside themselves, Seeking approval from their partner creates this imbalance, you see.
Instead of seeking validation from others, how do we actually cultivate that? The kind of self-love Osho's talking about.
Well, one of Osho's key ideas, it's embracing what he calls our,
Light and shadow?
yeah, acknowledging both parts of the parts of ourselves we readily share with the world, right? And those we try to keep hidden, even from ourselves.
That's powerful imagery. What are some examples, though, of these shadow aspects we try to hide?
It could be anything, really. Insecurities, past hurts, fears. Even parts of our personality we think are unacceptable. But Osho suggests that, running from these shadow aspects only gives them more power.
So instead of burying them, those less than perfect parts of ourselves, Osho's saying, shine a light on them, acknowledge them.
Exactly. Bring those hidden parts into our awareness. Yeah. Accepting them as part of who we are. It's not about condoning negative behavior, but understanding its roots, working towards healing.
Sounds pretty vulnerable.
It can be, yeah. But Osho argued that true self-love requires this radical honesty with ourselves. It's about recognizing, we're all a mix of light and shadow, and that's perfectly okay.
It makes sense. I mean, when we're constantly trying to present this perfect image to the world, right, we're essentially denying parts of ourselves.
And that denial, it takes a lot of energy, keeps us stuck in a cycle of seeking validation from others because we haven't fully accepted ourselves.
So true self-love, it's about breaking free from that cycle. Right? Recognizing that our worthiness, it doesn't depend on external approval.
Precisely. Osho believed that when we truly love and accept ourselves, right, we no longer need to seek validation from others, see? We become our own source of love and acceptance.
I can see how that kind of deep self-love would naturally overflow into our other relationships.
That's exactly it. When we have a strong foundation of self-love, we can approach our relationships from a place of wholeness and abundance, rather than neediness or insecurity.
Which brings us to another fascinating area, where Osho challenged conventional thinking. Romantic love. He believed it could be a beautiful path, but often gets distorted, right? By possessiveness and attachment.
This is where Osho, throws down the gauntlet. He argues that the truest romantic love involves giving your partner, complete freedom, to be their authentic selves, without trying to control them.
He even said, if you love a person, you give them total freedom. I remember reading that thinking, wait, doesn't that contradict everything? We're told about romantic relationships.
It definitely goes against the grain of our usual cultural scripts about romance, yeah. But if we stop and think about it, doesn't clinging to someone often have the opposite effect? Pushes them away.
Right, creates this suffocating energy.
Exactly, Osho would say. It's because we're operating from fear. Fear of losing the person, fear of being alone. And that fear, it leads to possessiveness, control, which undermines the relationship.
So how does this idea of freedom in love actually work? In practice, I mean. How do we navigate boundaries, individuality, within that framework?
Well, it demands a level of maturity, self-awareness that not all of us possess right out of the gate, It's about recognizing that your partner is not an extension of yourself, but a separate individual with their own needs and desires.
You're making me think about those relationships where one person seems to completely lose themselves and the other, like they cease to exist as an individual.
Osho would say that's a classic example of what not to do. He believed that true love should foster individual growth alongside togetherness.
So it's not about merging into one amorphous blob, right? But rather two individuals choosing to, like me, dance together while respecting each other's space.
Beautifully put. It's about supporting each other's evolution while maintaining a healthy sense of self.
That's a pretty radical departure from the romantic ideals, we're often bombarded with.
It is, and we're just scratching the surface. Osho goes even deeper, suggesting that this kind of love, the kind that embraces freedom, it can be a gateway to something even more expansive, what he called divine love, or universal love.
Now we're getting into the really intriguing stuff. So we've talked about self-love as the foundation and this unconventional view of romantic love. But what exactly did Osho mean by divine love?
For Osho, love wasn't limited to just our personal relationships. He saw it as a path to experiencing something much larger than ourselves, a way to connect to something. He called the divine.
Okay, we're going to need to unpack that because I have so many questions. But let's save that for the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned because things are about to get really expansive.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Osho on love. Before we jumped into divine love, we were exploring how Osho challenged conventions around romantic love and the need for self-love. It's like, forget everything you thought you knew.
Right. Turning the classic love story on its head. One thing that stuck with me was his idea that love shouldn't involve, like, sacrificing your own happiness for someone else. It's such a common theme, but Osho called it a distortion of love.
Yeah, he pushed back against that,
Yeah.
that romanticized notion of sacrifice, your own needs for someone you love. He felt true love shouldn't involve, like, diminishing yourself, It should be mutually fulfilling, empowering.
It makes you think about relationships where one person seems to constantly give themselves up. Is that truly sustainable, you think? Osho would say, no way, right?
Okay.
Because true love, it celebrates individual growth alongside togetherness.
He argued it often stems from fear of losing the other person, being alone,
Right.
which ultimately leads to,
Control, manipulation. This is making me think about how we often try to fit love into these boxes based on societal expectations or past experiences.
Osho was very critical of that. He believed that true love, it's wild, untamed. It can't be contained by our definitions, expectations.
So it's about letting go of those preconceived notions, allowing love to just unfold naturally.
Yes, and being open to the unexpected. Osho believed love is a constant journey of discovery, and we should approach it with a sense of curiosity and wonder.
He was also a big advocate for mindfulness, not just in like a meditative sense, but bringing that same awareness to everyday life relationships.
He was all about paying attention to the small things, the seemingly insignificant, gestures that often hold so much meaning. A gentle touch, a kind word, a moment of shared laughter. He believed these little things. They're the threads that weave the tapestry of love in our lives, and if we just slow down, pay attention, we'll see it's all around us.
This is so powerful because it means love isn't some elusive thing we have to go searching for. It's already present in our lives. If we just open our eyes to it, it's in the way we interact with our loved ones, with strangers, even with ourselves.
Osho believed that by practicing mindfulness, in our daily lives, even the most mundane moments can become opportunities,
That's cool.
for connection and love. It's like choosing to see the world through the lens of love, noticing all the small acts of kindness, beauty that often go unnoticed.
Sounds like a radical shift in perspective.
It is. It's about moving from a mindset of scarcity, where we're constantly searching for love, to a mindset of abundance, where we recognize that love is already present in every moment.
But how do we actually cultivate this kind of mindfulness in the context of love? Are there like specific practices Osho recommended?
One practice Osho emphasized was simply being present in our interactions, not letting our minds wander, to the past or future, but really tuning in to the person in front of us, listening with our full attention, and responding with genuine care.
It's like hitting the pause button on all the mental chatter and just being fully present in that moment.
Exactly. It's about giving the gift of our undivided attention, which can be incredibly powerful, and deepening our connections. Another practice Osho advocated for was bringing awareness to our own emotions.
What do you mean by that?
Well, so often in relationships, we react impulsively to our emotions, right? Especially when we're triggered or feeling hurt. Osho encouraged us to pause, take a breath, observe our emotional state without judgment. This creates space between the feeling and our reaction.
So instead of lashing out or shutting down, we take a moment to really understand what's going on inside us.
Exactly. It's about becoming more aware of our emotional patterns and learning to respond in a more skillful and loving way. Osho believed this kind of emotional awareness is essential for healthy relationships because it allows us to communicate our needs clearly and compassionately.
That makes sense to me. When we're able to understand and express our emotions in a healthy way, it creates more space for understanding and connection in our relationships.
He also emphasized the importance of acceptance, both of ourselves and our partners, remembering that we're all imperfect beings, capable of making mistakes.
It's about extending that same compassion and understanding that we hopefully cultivate for ourselves to our loved ones, not expecting them to be perfect or fit into some idealized mold.
Right, it's about embracing their flaws, imperfections, just as we embrace our own.
This is all reminding me of something else Osho said that really struck a chord with me. He said that love is not something you achieve once and then hold on to forever. It's a dynamic process that requires constant attention, nurturing.
He was really adamant about that. He believed that love is not a destination, but a journey, and that it requires ongoing effort and commitment. It's like tending a garden. You can't just plant the seeds and walk away expecting them to flourish on their own. You have to water them, weed them, give them the right conditions to thrive.
I love that analogy. Makes love seem less like a static thing and more like a living, breathing entity that needs our care and attention to grow.
And sometimes that care involves facing challenges, working through difficult emotions. Osho didn't shy away from the fact that love can be messy, unpredictable.
He often talked about how love can trigger our deepest wounds, insecurities. It can force us to confront parts of ourselves that we'd rather keep hidden.
He believed that by facing our fears, working through those painful emotions, we can actually emerge from those experiences with a deeper understanding of ourselves and an even greater capacity for love.
So it's about leaning into the discomfort rather than running away from it.
Exactly. It's about using those challenges as opportunities for growth, transformation. It's like the saying goes, the greatest growth often comes from the greatest pain.
This is all so insightful, but I have to admit, I'm still a bit unclear. On this concept of divine love, Osho seemed to believe that love goes beyond the personal and connects us to something much larger than ourselves.
That's right. He saw love as a fundamental energy that permeates the entire universe, something he called the divine.
So we're not just talking about the love we experience in our relationships, but something much more expansive.
Exactly. And that's where we'll pick up in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, back for the final part of our deep dive into Osho and love. We've covered a lot. Self-love, romantic love, mindfulness, even the shadow side of love. Now it's time for divine love, or as Oti also called it, universal love. Sounds pretty expansive, to say the least.
It is. This is where Osho, he takes us beyond the realm of personal relationships into like a whole other dimension. He suggests that love, it isn't just an emotion, between individuals, but a fundamental energy permeating the entire universe.
Okay, so we're talking love on a cosmic scale. I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
Imagine those moments when you feel a deep sense of awe and wonder in nature, like gazing up at the stars or standing at the edge of the ocean. It's like touching something vast, mysterious, something that connects us to, well, something greater than ourselves.
I've definitely felt that kind of awe and connection in nature, but is that what Osho meant by divine love?
He believed those experiences in nature can be glimpses of this divine love, those moments when we feel connected to something beyond our individual selves, something bigger than all of us. It's a love that transcends boundaries, distinctions, a love that, well, encompasses all beings.
So it's not just feeling connected to nature, but about tapping into this universal love that flows through, well, everything.
Exactly. Osho taught that we can access this through practices like meditation, mindfulness, and compassion. It's about expanding our awareness beyond our limited ego and opening ourselves to the interconnectedness of all things. We have to become more like gardeners.
Gardeners?
Yeah, Osho used this analogy a lot. We can't force a flower to bloom, right? But we can create the right conditions, the soil, water, sunlight, that allow it to blossom naturally. In the same way, we can cultivate those inner conditions that allow this universal love to flow through us.
So it's not about trying to conjure up this love or make it happen, but creating a fertile inner landscape where it can take root and grow.
Beautifully put, Osho often said. The more we give love, the more we receive it. It's not a finite resource, that we have to compete for, but an infinite wellspring that becomes more abundant the more we draw from it.
That's a really encouraging thought. It means we don't have to live in that mindset of scarcity where we're constantly afraid of not having enough love.
Right, when we connect to this universal love, we realize there's enough for everyone. We can celebrate each other's happiness, see it as an extension of our own, not a threat.
So how do we actually cultivate this kind of universal love? Are there specific practices Osho recommended?
He emphasized mindfulness, not just in meditation, but in every aspect of our lives. It's about bringing awareness to our thoughts, feelings, actions, and choosing to respond with love rather than,
Right.
fear or reactivity.
Sounds like it requires a lot.
Yeah.
Self-awareness
Hmm.
and discipline.
It does, but it's not about becoming some kind of saintly figure never experiencing negative emotions. It's about recognizing those emotions when they arise and making a conscious choice, you see, to respond in a way that aligns with love and compassion.
Are there any other practices that can help us tap into this universal love?
Osho is a big advocate for meditation, cultivating loving kindness, compassion for ourselves and others. It's a powerful practice for, opening our hearts, dissolving the barriers we often erect between ourselves and the world.
This is starting to paint a very different picture of love than what we usually see. In popular culture, it's less about romantic passion and more about this deep sense of interconnectedness and compassion.
Osho believed that this universal love is the key to creating a more harmonious and peaceful world. He saw it as the antidote to the fear, hatred, division that we see so much of.
It's like this love has the power to heal the wounds of the world, to bridge divides, to bring us closer to our true nature, which he believed was fundamentally loving and interconnected.
He believed that even small acts of kindness and compassion they can have a ripple effect spreading outwards, inspiring others to do the same, like that quote from Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world.
I love that. It reminds us that we don't have to wait for someone else to create a more loving world. We can start right here, right now, with our own thoughts, words, and actions.
Exactly, and that's the beauty of Osho's teachings. They offer a path to personal transformation and a vision for a more loving, compassionate world.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. Osho's teachings on love, they've really challenged me to expand my understanding of what love is and how it shows up in our lives.
He encouraged us to look beyond the surface, question our assumptions, and see love as a powerful force for healing and transformation.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. What resonated most with you from Osho's ideas? How might you apply his insights to your own life? Relationships, maybe it's starting a loving kindness, meditation practice, or being more mindful in your interactions, or simply making a conscious choice to see the world through the lens of love, whatever it is. I hope you'll take a moment to reflect on what Osho's teachings mean for you and how you can bring more love into your own life and into the world